We'll go ahead and get started. Just want to make sure we don't run out of time because we got more great stuff to cover this evening. So thanks all again for joining us on Tuesday and coming back for tonight's second session of the Prescribed Fire Smoke Management webinar. Just as a reminder, you probably just heard we are recording this webinar. It'll be a great resource to have in our library, and folks can feel free to share it out your networks. Even though parts of it might be Napa County specific, it's still a really helpful resource for folks all over the Bay Area. So we're just going to jump into the webinar and kind of pick up where we left off. Um, uh, just as an intro, this webinar is hosted by Napa County Resource Conservation District. We're a non-regulatory agency with the mission of helping community members care for the land, water, soil, and wildlife of Napa County. My name is Danielle Ashton. I'm a forestry project manager here at Napa RCD and also a steering committee member with the Napa Prescribed Burn Association. So it's been really great working with Dennis and Carol, our main contributors for this webinar series, and then as well as our working with Doug and Ryan Isham, who joined us on Tuesday, and Ryan's here with us again tonight. So just to reintroduce our speakers, first off, we'll have Dennis kind of get us back into it. He's a prescribed fire program manager for a local fire district in Contra Costa County, with over 50 years of experience in different kinds of public safety organizations. I feel like I have the wrong draft here. That's okay. Okay. We're also excited to have Carol Rice with us here this evening. She manages Wildland Resource Management, which is a consulting firm working throughout the Bay Area. Both her and Dennis were on the steering committee of the Bay Area Prescribed Fire Council, which could be a really cool thing to start back up if we got some interest in that. And also, again, we have Ryan Isham, a CAL FIRE LNU battalion chief. He's born and raised in Napa County and is a strong supporter of prescribed fire in our county, as well as a key partner for the Napa PBA. So again, a huge thank you to all of our guest speakers. Again, quick logistical things. If you have any questions throughout tonight's webinar, feel free to throw them in the chat box. We'll do our best to monitor those questions and answer them as they come in. And we'll also have more time this evening to do open Q&A and have some discussions. So feel free to unmute too. And then after tonight's webinar, I'll follow up early to mid next week with links to the videos as well as other resources. And I'll also throw in some email contacts into the chat box as well, so you can feel free to reach out with any questions. All right, sped talk through all that, but Dennis, why don't you get us back into it and take it over?
Okay, so just a quick recap of where we were, what we covered last Tuesday. We talked about what PFIRS is. We went through when and why do you need a smoke management plan. Hopefully everybody got the notes on how to get a PFIRS account, get through the front door anyway. What can PFIRS, the front page, kind of navigated around that. Ryan did a great job talking about CAL FIRE burn permit process and what permits connect to what kind of burns. Then we went on to talk about how to start a new smoke management plan. We spent some time talking about how to get the map information to locate the smoke management plan within PFIRS, finding the lat long and the elevation and some of that the acreage and those kinds of things using free Google Earth Pro. And then Carol talked about fuel models that are in PFIRS and how to pick one and how to navigate. So at the end, we started to run short on time, so we skipped a little bit, like 2 slides. So I'm going to go back and we'll catch up on those. So if you remember, this is the part that Carol talked about as far as picking on broadcast burns, what the fuel model is, and filling in that information as far as the acres what the consumption is going to be, and then the system calculates the total tonnage based on the fuel model, and then the PM10 emissions that you're going to do. What we didn't talk about is down at the bottom of the page, developing your prescription. And this is only the prescription for the smoke management plan. So you may have a tighter prescription depending on what your resource goals or your burning window is on your burn plan. But just some basic things about the prescription that gets you through the PFIRS process. Generally, PFIRS wants to see that you're burning with winds less than about 15 miles per hour. Any wind direction that you choose, in some sites you can get away with 0 to 360 degrees, and some sites, if there's a school or something there, it's probably a good idea to carve that out and put a wind prescription in that steers smoke away from that sensitive site. I think there's a slide in here coming up about what is a smoke sensitive site, and I look at that as anybody that it would be bad to blow smoke into. So schools, churches, the middle of town, on the freeway where smoke could obscure the vision and cause a traffic accident, any of those things. You got to put your thinking cap on and figure out, where those things are and what your prescription is going to be in PFIRS to steer smoke around there. It asks you for a mixing height, and you just want to say greater than 500 feet, because 500 feet is the minimum that the Air Quality Management District, if it's less than 500 feet, that smoke is going to ride right along the ground, and it's going to blow into people's houses, and you'll be cleaning their curtains and their carpets and all those kinds of things. So you want that smoke to loft up. And generally, like today, it was like 1,800 feet, and we had pretty good dispersion of smoke. So just greater than 500 feet is a good one. Temperatures, depending on what you're burning, but the general rule of thumb that I use is less than 80 degrees. And if you're burning piles, you can go down to 30 or 40 degrees. But if you're understory burning, that cap is kind of 80 degrees. And then relative humidity, you can put in anything greater than 10%. And if you're burning piles again, I put in there all the way 10 to 100%. And generally we're burning piles in the wintertime when everything is wet, and it's not uncommon to have the relative humidity at 90 or 100%, and they still burn. We actually get pile burning paper and cover them up so that they'll burn in a rainstorm, hopefully. The other part is this little part about smoke sensitive sites. And here's my slide about what's a smoke sensitive site. Schools, hospitals, community centers, roadways, a whole community, anything that's going to disturb rare, threatened, or endangered species. We've had to work around like bald eagle nesting sites and stuff on some of our burns, so they don't, the biologists don't want us blowing smoke through the eagle nest kind of areas. So anything that someone might be unduly impacted by your burn is a good, try and steer around that, or put it in your smoke management plan that you at least acknowledge it's there and are going to work around it. As far as schools, a bunch of burns that I've done is we wait till school is out for the summer, so there's no students in the school, because that gets pretty emotional with parents. And if you got a couple hundred students in a school, somebody's going to have an issue with that. So some tips for entering your smoke management plan. If you're going to do a number of these, I try to put the year in front of it, because hopefully you'll come back and burn the same area again on a rotation. So when you draw those polygons, if you're using Google Earth, just save them and name them, and then you can go back and rename them in your smoke management plan when it expires a year from now, and say this is 2627, or something like that. It's amazing if you're burning how many different smoke management plans you have, and then when you have that long list, sorting through them to find the one that that's current, that you want to burn next week, gets to be a pain. So we talked about this. Duck threw the tip out that those contact fields on that first page, the general page of the PFIRS smoke management plan, those are simple text fields. So if you're running the burn and you want to put a backup or two backups in there, both the contact fields as far as names and phone numbers. You can put multiple in there. So that's pretty handy. Um, Again, knowing what a reasonable prescription window is for your project and your smoke management plan. And just remember, it's not the same thing as a prescription in your burn plan. Know your smoke sensitive sites and identify them. And you can actually put those on a Google map too, and then use that little tool to draw the wind vectors that you need around it. And then, someone once told me if you have a good communications plan and you can document that, and somebody does complain or there is an impact, you can go back to that plan and say, we tried to tell everybody. And I've had one experience where the local area that we were burning in, we burned 140 something acres in the middle of pretty much in the middle of downtown Moraga. And the people in Moraga were very happy because we got rid of all this fuel. But all the smoke went up, didn't impact Moraga, but it all landed in Walnut Creek. So I got a couple of letters that the fire chief asked me to respond to. And I was able to pull out all of the things, make a list of bullet points of all of the things that we did to try and notify people that we were burning that day and that they should close their windows and, close the vents on their air conditioning and, to try and mitigate any impacts that we had. And it wasn't perfect, but at least we had a good answer. And I think my list was like 7 or 8 or 9 different ways that we reached out to the public. Everything from, the project was showing in Watch Duty. We did Facebook. We did Nextdoor. We had the PD do a Nixle alert. We sent notes. We sent emails to the city staff to let them know that we're burning. And so the main complaint that I think is kind of out of the chute is someone will say, well, you were burning and I support burning, but you didn't tell me. And we were concerned about that. So work on that communications plan. And that's a part of the smoke management plan. You can document all that in there. Who you're going to call, how you're going to get in touch with them is pretty good tip. So as far as that, we can go to questions now, or I'll turn this back to Danielle and we can kind of talk through things and see where we are. Um,
Yeah, if anyone has questions, and if not, maybe we'll just
oh,
hop back
wait, Danielle, I
into,
have more.
yeah, yeah.
I had that in the wrong spot. So these are some of the things I was just talking about. So we talked about general, we talked about project description, and we talked about the burn blocks, and now the smoke management components. So those are the things that include conditions at the site, how you're going to monitor those. And I always put in a little blurb like this that will have one or more field observers. The observations will be broadcast over the weather observations will be broadcast over the project command net every hour during the burns. That will get a spot weather forecast from the National Weather Service at least a day prior to the burning, to make sure that we all know what the predicted fire weather is going to be for that day. And then here's the piece that I was just kind of went on about public information. And that's kind of the blurb I use that we distributed via phone to the appropriate police departments, the local residents adjacent to the burn. We've gone as far as to sometimes go door to door with flyers for folks. We call the school districts because they're pretty sensitive about smoke in their schools. We request a Nixle post, let the city managers know. Of course, let fire dispatch know the morning of the burn, our local park district, CAL FIRE always, if we're burning even if we're burning in local responsibility area, we'll give the local CAL FIRE unit a call and say, hey, if you get some calls about a wildland fire, someplace in our area, it's probably going to be us. So that's how we cover that base. And then this next part is basically, what are your contingency actions if your smoke does begin to impact a sensitive site? So you can pick these, and you don't need to pick them all. But basically, I usually say we halt ignition except as needed to maintain control of the fire. You can allow the fire to burn to contingency lines. You can put it out. I usually put begin immediate mop up because I try and set our projects up so that we have them plumbed with hose around them. So if we do have a problem, we can put them out. And then I do an estimate about, we usually can have things mopped up in 2 hours. And then I always check the discontinue mop up if favorable conditions return. Um, and so that completes the smoke management components. And then here's that Google Earth map that you saw earlier in the presentation. I will take those and just screenshot them and paste them into a Word document and put a fancy title on it and maybe a logo or something so that everybody knows what we're burning. This could also be the briefing map at the beginning of our firing operation. And then you upload those into this maps and documents section so that the district can see where you're burning. And a lot of times the second PDF there will be kind of a general area map so they can see the proximity to other structures and any smoke sensitive sites. Um, so this is an example of we're burning up here on the ridge at this Sagorate Land Trust, and the Canyon Elementary School is down here in the valley. So I just basically used the Google Earth line function, which is going to pop up. It's this little ruler thing up here. And I just drew a vector here and a vector here. And it says what the heading degrees are for those vectors. And then I can write in my smoke management plan that the wind direction is going to be between 127 and 194 degrees to avoid impacting the canyon school. So, and that's that little tool right there. Some other maps that are handy to know, and I think Danielle's got these all in the resource list. The SRA LRA map or the SRA viewer map. Whoops. So the yellow areas are state responsibility areas. So those are areas that you would need to get um, an LE 5, 7, 8, or whatever the residential burning one is, to make sure CAL FIRE's in the loop. All of the gray areas are local responsibility area, and you can actually zoom into like the property line or a street view on this to see, because sometimes you're right on the line and you want to know which side you're on. This would be if you could put a dot on this map in Word or something that this is where we're burning, just to document that you're in SRA or LRA is kind of handy. I also use CalTopo. I'm beginning to like it a lot. CalTopo is also a the basic service is also a free kind of map application. You can run it on your phone. It's pretty handy out there. So these are some polygons that I built in Google Earth just so I could see the land and be able to zoom around and look at different aspects of it. And then I exported those Google Earth files as KMZ files, and they imported right into CalTopo. So it's pretty handy in that you can get a whole bunch of different backgrounds in CalTopo. Again, to let people know, okay, here's exactly where we're burning. This shows you can put in or take out the structure. So this shows the elementary school that we're going to burn around next week, and all the structures in the area. It gives you basic landforms, but then you can change that background fairly easily. So this is the same map zoomed in to show the stuff around the school, and it shows the shaded relief map. So kind of cool, kind of handy. And then this is the same map again, and this one has the topographic lines at 10-foot intervals. So it's actually a pretty powerful program. And again, the basic program is free. I think I pay for the pro version, and I can't remember what it is, but it's pretty affordable. So you have all these options for maps, and again, they can be part of your smoke management plan, or you can adapt them. And CalTopo, I was playing with it the other day, and I'm actually putting drop points and water supplies and all those kind of fire control points and They have tools where you can put in map markers so you show where you have your control lines and stuff. It's pretty handy. Some other documents to consider, including in your plan, if you're burning in SRA, they kind of it's kind of one doesn't necessarily have to go before the other. I think the CAL FIRE will issue you a LE7 or a LE5 before you have a smoke management plan. But part of that process is I think they ask you if you have a smoke management plan and vice versa. So I think more information giving to both those agencies is probably better. Do you have any environmental documents that you can include? I know the smoke management plan and PFIRS, they ask you to include any of those. And the hitch in the get along is a lot of environmental documents are huge files, and there's a limit on what you can get papers to upload. And I think it's like 20 megabytes, but there's not a lot of room there to upload a 250 page, CEQA document. So you kind of got to work with that. I've got projects, I keep all that documentation, and some of them, when we do the project, I'll upload it to the first unit of that project or the first smoke management plan, and in subsequent years, I haven't been asked to upload it again. I'm a big proponent of if you have photos of the site before you burn and then after you burn, so you can show what the fuel conditions are, especially during your smoke management plan application. Because the folks at the Air Quality Management District, they really don't know what you're burning. Their office, I think, is in the city, or their folks are working from home. They like to see, I think they like to see, what's your project look like. So I would encourage you to include photos that you can upload with your smoke management plan. It doesn't have to be a lot, but if you're burning piles, a kind of a backed off view of what the piles are. If you're doing understory burning, just so they can get a feel for what conditions look like on the ground, and that will help us build cooperation and collaboration with the Air Quality Management District folks. Um, I like to include a map that if we're burning piles that shows the general location of the piles on the property that we're burning them on. And it's as simple as a little dot on the map. And again, I do that in Google Earth with a teeny tiny little place mark, and CalTopo has a tool that you can put a little tiny dot. So if you're burning 50 piles in an area, and you can just generally locate where those are, it gives them an idea of what the topography is around those piles. So once you have all the information uploaded, I would suggest you go through each of the tabs that we just went through, and double check your info. Make sure everything is uploaded, and go to the fuel blocks tab, and click on that map button and make sure that your fuel blocks, your units are located on the map. And sometimes they're not right, so you just need the lat long corrected. While I'm thinking about it, you know how I talked about uploading just cutting and pasting that number out of Google Earth, the little degrees thing, that little tiny zero that's kind of up in the corner at the end, you have to delete that. Otherwise, PFIRS will kick it back and say, it's not a verifiable lat long. So just delete that little zero thing, the little degree mark up there, and then you'll be able to see it on the map. So once you've made sure everything is right, and again, the reason I say this is if you submit it and Duck or his staff there have to get back to you, it pretty much delays your approval by at least a couple of days, if not longer. So if you just double check it and make sure it's as good as you can get it before you push that submit button. So you've done that. You've got everything here. You hit the save button for everything that you've gone through, and you've gotten that little everything is updated successfully. And then you can collapse that section. And so you get to the end of that, and there's a page like this, and it's submit to the Air District. There's a little checkbox right here. And you click that, and with the district looking at removing fees for PBAs and qualified burners. I think that this section is going to change. At least that's one of the comments that I'm going to make while they're considering the revisions to Regulation 5. Hopefully they'll change this to something that's a little more open so that PBAs and stuff don't have to get a qualified professional resource ecologist, biologist, or forester. I've never been called on that, and to be honest with you guys, I'm not one of those. But I am the sort of the designated person for a local fire district and a California certified California prescribed fire burn boss. So I hope they'll put some language in there for that. Once that box is checked, this will light up and you click submit to the air district and your smoke management plan is gone. It's waiting to be reviewed by the air district. So congratulations, your plan has been submitted. The district gets them the plan right in paper, so they'll get a note that says, "Hey, there's a new smoke plan management plan for you to review." And then what I found is the more lead time that you can give them, and I know when you're trying to plan a prescription and line up resources and get all the ducks in a row, 30 days seems like forever. They have many times reviewed them shorter times than that, but that's their rule is they want 30 days before you're going to burn. So if you're looking at building a smoke management plan now, for a fall burn, it's a great time to get it and do your draft and send everything up and get it approved now. And again, make it good for a whole year so that if something comes up and you can't burn, you still have most of next spring to do the same project. So 30 days is it. Once it's been approved, you get this letter from Jeff Grove or Geraldine, and it says, "Hey, congratulations, you're approved for this project on this date." And it goes back into PFIRS and it says that that's one of your projects over on the left-hand side, one of your projects that's been approved. So you're ready to go to that request and a burn window. So you can start looking for that prescription window. Maybe flesh out your other permits that are required. Start monitoring your weather and fuel conditions. Figure out the window as far as what environmental factors you want to burn in. What's the plant ecology if you're trying to set back some exotic plants. And start looking at, okay, I got this smoke management plan and I got my LE5 or LE7 from CAL FIRE. We're going to go burn this. Well, you want to make sure you got the resources to do it. And then the one that kind of not at the bottom of the list, but it's down there to snap at your heels is social political concerns. And again, that good communications plan is important. Talking to elected officials in the area and making sure that they're not surprised. I've got a number of calls to me and to the fire chief from elected officials that wanted to come out and see the burn or be seen at the burn or be part of it. And basically, the good rule is never surprise your boss or an elected official. So make sure you cover all those bases. And then some tools to try and figure out what that prescription window is. This is in the resource list that Danielle sent around. If you haven't used this is called a product from the National Weather Service called the Fire Weather Dashboard. And that big square in the middle of the map is an area that we're burning in, and it gives you a forecast for just that square. And it goes out like almost 2 weeks sometimes. Depends on, I don't know what, but you can look ahead for that. And you can move that square around. So if you're burning in Napa County or any place, you can move that square and then hit this change domain, and it will populate a forecast for the area of where that dot is there. And so as you scroll down, this is all one page. It just wouldn't fit on my slide here. if you scroll down, you get this, and this is a project that we were working on today, and I was looking for a prescription window. Then you can see you get the maximum temperature, what the min temperature is. You're looking for an RH that's in some sort of a window that's, kind of for the day. So you get your max and min RH. Wind speed, kind of the max and the min. The max gust, and it gives you that time of day that they're expecting that maximum gust. Other things down here, remember we talked about you got to have a mixing height over 500 feet. So, this whole week looks pretty good for mixing height, um, and the minimum mixing height. So when I get to here, I start going, okay, let's see what's important to us. And so this is for Friday the 30th, and it goes by hour for that day. So we know we don't want to start burning before 10 a.m. And if I go down here to mixing height, it's times 100 feet. So the mixing height is right kind of at that level of maybe 800 feet. Again, this is a forecast tool so that you can pick out a week ahead of time. You know, if the mixing height is like 300 feet, you're not going to be able to burn. So you might as well not line up the resources, call the mayor, call the police departments, do all that prep work, is look for a different window that you can use. And you can actually scroll across this line to get, look at like a week and a half at least ahead of time. So it's pretty handy. So mixing height is a pretty cool one. Everything here in pink is I'm looking at, and we're going to start burning about 11. And so early in the morning hours, it's like 600 feet. And up here at 11 a.m. or 10 a.m., it's 1500, 1700. So probably on this day, as long as we hold off until the mixing height goes up, I would start scheduling resources and making notifications that, hey, next week on Monday, 6/2 looks like we might be in prescription for our project. What this doesn't have in it is fuel moistures and plant conditions and those things, but you can kind of infer from what you see here about it might be good to try it. And then always going out and doing a test fire um, is pretty good stroke too. Um, Let's see. So we've got a prescription, we've got our smoke management plan, you've got all your permits from CAL FIRE. Everything is lined up. You're ready to say, okay, it looks like next Thursday is going to be a good day. So then you come to this ignition button here in PFIRS, and this is request ignition approval from the district. You click on that and it opens a window like this. And so here's a project that we want to burn on what is this, May 29th. So there's a little calendar underneath this little calendar, and it opens this, and I would say, okay, 2025 Campo Ridge, it looks like we're going to be in prescription. I'm going to give it a shot anyway on May 29th. So I fill the date in over here, the burn date, the project name. When you click here, there's a big long drop down list, and that's one of the reasons I always try and put the year in front of it, because the drop down list holds pretty much everything you've ever requested in there. And it's a little confusing in that if you have a project with multiple units, the project name is also listed in there. So you want to find the unit that you want to burn. You click on that. It's a broadcast burn. This is where it is. And that unit is 6.6 acres. I always put 6.6 acres in here because I can always say, oh, we only burned 5.5 acres or 6 acres. And then we'll come back the next day and finish up that 0.6. So you put in your request to the district at least by no later than 9 o'clock a.m. the day before you want to burn. And hit the submit button. And again, through the magic of PFIRS, it goes to the Air Quality Management District and they'll review your request. I started doing these like a week or more before because I'm looking at the fire weather dashboard and I'm saying, I got resources that are asking me if they can come help and that kind of thing. And the weather's been good. We've been having a good marine layer. It looks like it might hang out. So I'll put these in a week ahead. And if we can't burn, I'm not calling people and saying, we're going to do it, but I'll wait. And the district is very good at kind of getting back and sending me an email or a text message that's saying, hey, it looks pretty good for Thursday, Friday. but next week we're expecting some hot weather and a high pressure building in, so it might not be that good next week. And it just helps me let them know what I'm thinking, and then they'll give you feedback. So you just put in the acres or the number of piles goes there. So it's not a precise form. If you're burning piles, is 50 piles is not the same as 10 acres. So, but it gives them an idea so they can look back at your plan and see what you're thinking about. Then you hit the submit button, and the AQMD has it. And this is the notice that you get the morning of the burn. So remember, they'll try and give you a 24-hour outlook. And then the morning that you're authorized to actually ignite that project, you get this in the mail. So this came in at 0633, and it just is approving for a project that we're burning in this Flicker Ridge area. So if you can, try and stay in touch with the Air Quality Management District. They'll try and give you 24-hour outlook. That 24-hour outlook is not the allocation. So it's not the same as this email above. The final allocations come early in the morning that you're going to burn. Okay, so my ignition has been approved and I'm ready to go out and burn. Um, so I can look at currently, let me go back. I can look at the currently authorized ignitions. So once I click that and it's been approved, it'll pop up in that ignition button. And then next I'm going to look at the update button. Oops, wrong way. Sorry. So this will be the list of authorized ignitions, the ones that I've been submitted that aren't approved yet. Um, and then you have choices here on this is the update button. Um, when you go out, like this morning, we went out to burn a project. When we put fire on the ground, I hit that update button and it brings up the project that we're approved to burn and it gives you some choices. And I can't remember exactly what they are, but the basic one is the project is active. So you click that button and then hit the update button over to the right-hand side, and that sends a message to the Air Quality Management District that says, okay, Dennis, you're really burning this right now. So that project is active. We finished up about 3:30 today, and as we were leaving, I always put the project in patrol. It was, we burned, I don't know, 3.5 acres. Um, but I'll leave it in patrol until tomorrow or the next day, depending. It was all grass and some oak understory. But just in case something sneaks out, and we actually have the local engine companies are going out there a couple times tonight on a schedule to just check things. I'm very confident it's not going anyplace, but I'll leave it in patrol for at least till tomorrow when we go back out there and burn some more units. And then once I'm 150% convinced that it's not going anyplace and that the lines are in and everything's out and cold, then there's a button that you can click that says it's completed or out. If we don't burn it for whatever reason and you click the cancel button, it asks you, basically, why did you cancel it? So you would click in there. It can be things like resource availability, out of prescription, a whole host of things. So you're out burning and you have to cancel a project. You just click that cancel button and let them know why. And I've actually done that. We had a prescription, one of those that I put 0 to 360 degrees. And the day that we went out there, the smoke was blowing it right into the houses that were down canyon from us. It was really a weird deal. So we burned about a half an acre, and then I said, this is not good. We're blowing it, and at the end of the valley there was a school, so we canceled it, and I put that in there, and that said the smoke was out of prescription. The wind direction was out of prescription for that project. So that's when you would use that. So you've done your updates, you've got your smoke management plan, you've got your CAL FIRE stuff. It's time to go out and burn. And there you go. Once you start burning, this is another website that's in Danielle's resource list. This is called Purple Air. Hopefully you've all seen this. It really is kind of a crowdsourcing tool. All those green dots on there are places where people have, I think the sensors are like $200, someplace around that, and they put them at their homes. They connect to the internet, and it gives us a reading of, what the air quality is at that particular house or that business or whatever. I like to, if I'm concerned about, smoke complaints or those things, I will take a screenshot of this in the morning, just save it on my phone as a photograph, and then when we start burning or a couple times during the day, you can zoom in, zoom out on this, and just take a couple screenshots as you go. It's amazing where all these sensors are. So if you're fortunate enough to be in an area with a bunch of them, it's a pretty good tool. And if you generate some concern from the residents or social political concerns, you can pull this up and say, we monitored the air quality throughout the day, and here's what it looked like. Here's my 4 screenshots during the day. You can also have one of your weather person that's taking hourly weather just say, hey, just pull this up and screenshot it, and then text message it to me and salt it away. And then I think I'm getting close to the end here. Don't forget the follow-up. All those photos that you took of the site before you burned, um, take some after you burn, and then you have a comparison. And sometimes it's good to go out and put a post in the ground or a stake or something so you can go back to the same part. Um, it's always good to get photos so you can see. The lower right-hand corner is that app we talked about called SoLocator. And you can see it gives you the location, the bearing that you're shooting it, the elevation, and then it's hard to see in this shot, but you can actually put kind of metadata on it that says what the project is, who took the photo, what time and date it was taken. All good info to have in your project file. And poison oak is not your friend. That's why I put xanthil in there. Um, and then it never hurts to make a few notes. Did you achieve your project objectives? Did you close all the loops? Were there any residents that called and said, hey, what are you guys doing? Or I have smoke issues, or I'm just concerned about wildfire. Always try and call those folks back and explain to them, a good place to show them photos of what you did that day. Let the agencies and stakeholders know the project is done. So at the end of the day, you go into PFIRS and you click that patrol status, and then when it's all the way out, it's nice to circle back to the agencies that that were watching your project and let them know that, okay, we're mopped up, it's contained, it's controlled, we're on to the next project. Consider posting some appropriate photos to social media. Thank your cooperators and start planning the next project. So that's all I have now. Safe burning, everyone.
So awesome, Dennis. Thank you so much. And right under time. And as we're approaching 6:15, kind of the end of our webinar, I want to invite Ryan to maybe give a bit of an update on prescribed firework in Napa County coming up and maybe ways that CAL FIRE can kind of support folks who want to do burning with the smoke management planning, but also understand that folks might need to hop off. So this will be recorded if you do need to leave, no worries. But yeah, Ryan, would you like to give a quick update for us?
Yeah, so different projects that we have going on in Napa County is we started off the burn season this year up in the Angwin area, helping and assisting with some understory burns up there. We have now started to transition more to some grassland oak woodland burning throughout the county. Currently, this next week coming up, we have one taking place up in the Snell Valley area of Pope Valley. We have one taking place in the Wild Horse Valley area of Napa. And after that, we are looking at pivoting to at least one more up in Pope Valley. We will probably pause as we get into veraison with the grape industry around here so that we're not causing any smoke taint. And then we will start up our burning again once we get through with harvest of the grapes and we get the fruit off the vine. We will start up with burning again, where we have a couple of plans. We have one partnership that we're looking at doing with the Veterans Home in the Yountville area. We have more down in the Napa area. And then we will probably close out the burn season again when we get into late fall, back up with some timber understory burns in the Angwin area.
Sweet. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then is there another part to that that you wanted me to go over?
Yeah, just if, if there are folks in Napa County that you like how you might support this process,
Oh, yeah.
what your capacity is.
So yeah, CAL FIRE realizes the importance of getting out and getting a lot of this work done. We realize that we cannot do it all ourselves. So the more that we can partner with other agencies uh, and assist them, and then other landowners as well, we are always open to assisting with that. We can do things like a landowner assist, where ultimately the fire, ultimately the burning is done by the landowner or an organization like the PBA, to where they will be doing the firing, and the overall responsibility of the project will fall on them. But we can come out and assist as a holding force that day. We can always give out any guidance or expertise or recommendations for projects that are coming. We are more than happy to come out and do site evaluations. If it is a broadcast burn, we have to come out anyways for the LE7 and 8 to do those site inspections and review the burn plan for the project and set parameters for it. But yeah, I mean, we're happy to help with giving guidance on smoke management plans, burn plans, recommendations for where and when to burn. We're always a good resource for that.
Sweet. Yeah, it's been it's been great working with our CAL FIRE BCs here in Epic County with the PBA and it kind of getting off its feet. And we have some burn projects coming up in the fall too. And as part of the follow-up email, I'll send along the Napa PBA email list in case anyone wants to hop on that and stay updated or come join us on any burns. Yeah, and then for folks in Napa County who do want to burn with the PBA, RCD can kind of help with the smoke management planning use and submitting those into the PFIRS systems for folks who are directly working with the PBA. And then as we build capacity, being able to more broadly offer that as a service, unless they change that certification requirement, which is hopeful. But are there any questions with the folks remaining on the call that you want to make sure are answered before we kind of sign off for the night? If not, we have a list from the registration form and happy to kind of send out maybe a little short FAQ sheet as part of resources as well. Eric, did you have a question?
No, I did submit a question when I registered for the webinar, and I think you'll probably answer it at some point. But let's say we go through all the work of getting ourselves ready for a burn, and then we have spare the air or something comes up. We'll obviously need to reschedule around those unforeseen circumstances, correct? Dennis is nodding yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so generally what happens, and we've all seen this, once wildfire season hits, depends where that smoke is blowing in from.
Hmm.
2 weeks ago, the Air Quality Management District said, hey, we're concerned about smoke blowing in from Manitoba, and so it was going out to sea and then coming back in the Bay Area. Didn't actually end up impacting us, but they watched that far away.
Well,
If we have fires locally, that will probably shut things down, not only from the smoke management perspective, but also the resource availability perspective. At some point, CAL FIRE is going to stop issuing burn permits just based on their resources are all out fighting fire. So then you just push it back to, like I said, that next year, spring burn, or wait till fall kind of thing.
copy that. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Well, if any come to mind as you're like falling asleep tonight, feel free to reach out via email. Oh, let me drop them in the chat fast. Um, and yeah, I'll follow up with an email as well, so you'll have them that way. But think that's it. Yeah, it's a Thursday night, almost end of the week. So hope you all have a good rest of the week and a good weekend. And thank you again for joining us for this webinar. And thank you, Dennis and Carol and Ryan as well for being here and sharing your expertise.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Good
Take care.
night.